Where to go?
All right, so we'll return to public hearings, public hearing number C, Chapter 2, Article 5, Division 2, Finance Committee, Sections 505 and 509.
Anybody wishing to speak on behalf of this item, please step forward. Seeing no movement, we'll keep moving. Next item.
Next item is D, Chapter 46, Article 5, Section 46, 133 and 134, Access Management.
Anybody wishing to speak on behalf of Access Management? Seeing none, moving.
Public hearing closed.
Yep.
Next is the public hearing for the special entertainment permit for the Coombs Mountford American Legion Post, and also the special entertainment permit for the Slovak Catholic Association, if you want to combine those.
I'll open those public hearings. If anybody wants to speak on behalf of those, I'll close the public hearing.
Next is audience participation and response for agenda items.
Anybody got anything that they'd like to express on behalf of what's on the agenda, please step forward. Moving on, 12.
Under consent agenda, any counselor wishing to have any item removed may do so now. Order 2019-230 to approve the municipal accounts payable and payroll warrants number 12112019 for $5,676.54. Number 12172019 for $115,954. School accounts payable and payroll warrants number 19 for $586.42. 1035 for $335,496.14. Number 1036 for $13,071.13. Number 1037 for $374,125.86. Number 1038 for $87,073.12. Number 2010 for $250,752.93. Number 1040 for $7,117.41. Number 1041 for $66.24. Number 1042 for $3,809.10. Along with the council meeting minutes of December 10th, 2019, and a renewal automobile graveyard permits for Campbell's Used Auto Parts and Houston's Auto Salvage, the renewal special entertainment permit and liquor licenses for Coombs Mountford and Slovak Catholic Association, the PSAP agreement, and to set a public hearing on January 21 for a medical marijuana establishment license for Lisbon Cannabis Company, and a CMP poll permit, poll number 3.1 on Avery Street.
Can I take a motion for discussion? I have one question.
And I'll second that.
I have the one question on the PSAP agreement. Is that the same price as prior years, or are we moving?
It's gone up.
How much?
I don't.
Our standing agreement that we've had with Chief for the last couple of years is he needs to give us information if it's actually tipping towards an unhealthy level.
Yeah, I think last year when they went through the budget, did they talk about that at the budget at the county, that they were going to go up for 3 years in a row?
Correct.
So this is, I think,
Right.
the second year of that year.
And it was something associated with the fact is it was coming down from the state and part of the consolidation. So that's what I was trying to figure out where we are on that slope.
Okay.
That's the only reason I asked.
Because that's part of the big, I think.
Yes, that's the
if I'm
bigger-
on your page, it's part of the bigger picture where eventually if they get forced, then we're going to have to talk about some other
Issue that
lever
we-
that might.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
And may I?
Yes,
on
please.
The other one, on G, is that actually is this a yearly renewal?
It is.
It is. So it's already come back to a year on this, huh? That's wild.
Time flies.
Yep. And that's all in place as far as for the public hearing? I mean, does that yearly require the redoing of the application? Everything needs to be, all the requirements need to be put back in again for that? That came the first time?
Yep.
So that's
all
all
the
been
same
met.
forms and all the same paperwork is necessary again.
Yeah.
And an application comes in, and we take in the fee, and we set a public hearing. We advertise that tomorrow for January 21. We thought that the process might take a little longer, so we started early.
Well, there you go.
I believe it probably expired in the 1st of March.
Because I know there's a lot to it, so I was just kind of curious. That's what my question was. So that's good. I mean, it's one of those things we may see more and more as we go through, right?
Councilor Phillips, do you have something?
I just wondered about the poll permit. Is that standard application or what?
It's a replacement pole,
Oh,
so they take one down, put one up, and it's on Avery Street, sort of close to that club.
Okay.
Any other questions? All in favor, then? Thank
Order
you.
passed 6-0.
This doesn't seem like it's been a year. here since.
No, I
Right
was,
there.
that was, I was where you were at on that too. Absolutely. Next item.
Under council orders, resolutions, and ordinances, Order 2019-231, a waiver of foreclosure.
So we're going to complete the foreclosure process this week, and these properties that I listed here are properties I don't feel that we should foreclose on at this time. The 4571 is a trailer. It's not in great condition. The 3177, the trailer was demolished, but they never came in and got a demolition permit, so Dennis is dealing with that, because we wouldn't have issued one with taxes unpaid. Then you've got all the Miller Industries. I don't know what's going on with all of that property, and if we think we want to foreclose on it in the future, then we ought to be doing some investigation on that. And then the last one, 1424, typically they pay, but they haven't yet. But that's another piece that we don't want to foreclose on at this time. And we'll go through this again next year, so if you decide you want to foreclose on any of these, you still have that opportunity if they haven't paid them.
Upland Road, what is there? Is it a misnomer that I'm just not seeing it?
I don't know.
on the map?
I don't know. I don't know. And honestly, if there was any value in these, I don't know why they weren't taking care of them. So that's why we need to do a little bit more research. But I'm not sure what's on Upland Road.
That was the only one I couldn't place. What are you thinking?
I'm just thinking it's right up near the intersection.
Right, that's what I figured, too close, and we're seeing it from one address, but it's actually frontage is on
Right.
the other.
So I think it's all in that contaminated area.
Yeah, that's
but
probably
we need
that
to
linoleum
we
dump.
need to do a lot more research on these before we ever do anything.
Right.
So we're starting the ball on that.
Right.
But the taxes will never be paid on these moving forward unless somebody purchases the property. They've all been abandoned now at this point.
Anybody else? I need a motion.
You asked the question I was going to ask.
I need a motion.
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
I need the second.
A second.
Yes, sir.
Nothing.
All in favor? Making sure.
6-0.
I got you.
Order passed.
It's this side of the room I ignore, because this is the side I don't see. Just don't want you to feel slighted.
I got you.
Next
Listened to you
item.
for a long time.
Ordinance 2019-232 to adopt Chapter 2, Article 5, Division 2, Finance Committee Sections 505 and 509. This is the second reading. It is a roll call vote required.
I'll make a motion.
And I'll take a second for discussion.
Second.
Second.
Does anybody have anything that we haven't already covered on this item?
I think it's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
I just want to ask a question because
Please.
being the newbie idiot.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to.
This was a
run with it.
finance committee some time ago, and it was abandoned, and because of maybe not the right person on the committee or whatever. But what's the impetus for doing it again?
Intent of doing it again is to go ahead and make sure that we can leverage the professionals that we have in our community who are more inclined to have a better understanding of some of the financial picture items, that they could give us their insight and use that, and we can leverage that professional experience to help us during budget season, rather than us plowing through line by line, having to painfully dig into things that could have been easily sussed out by somebody who was used to looking at that information.
My main focus would be the fact that I used to be on the finance committee, and I don't think I was the most qualified person. So I'd be interested to find out if we have a vetting process or something if we're going to put people on this committee and make it work.
I think that's the intent.
Yep, you nailed it. That's exactly what we're looking. The idea is to try to find, I'm sure we have plenty of people in this community who have tons of experience, and the idea would be to find the best qualified candidates to assist council and all the other committees, school and the municipality side of things, obviously. So that's the goal, Don.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? All in
Aye.
favor?
Are you all ready for a roll call vote?
Yes.
Yes, I am. Thank
Oh,
you.
good.
I like how you
Roll
prepped
right into that, yeah.
I like how you prepped us for that.
Counselor Albert,
Yes.
Counselor La Rochelle,
Yes.
Counselor Ward,
Yes.
Counselor Lunt,
Yes.
Counselor Ganong, he's absent, Counselor Colby,
Yes.
and Counselor Fellows.
Yes.
6 yes, 0 nays. Order passed.
Next.
is it's ordinance 2019-233, Chapter 46, Article 5, Sections 46, 133, and 134 for access management. This is the second reading, and a roll call vote is also required.
I make the motion.
I'll take the second for discussion.
Second.
Don?
Should I be involved in this or not? Because I was,
You're
can
playing
give
the
us-
role of the liaison one way or the other, so you said
Take
started
it
there,
out.
you vetted it. You can recuse yourself too. You asked me the question. I do not believe you're a conflict at this point, bringing this forward.
I don't think you have anything to gain by actually making a vote either way, so.
okay. I'm good.
You're the best resource. Anything that isn't here to point to what we should know?
Just the summary, if you read the summary, and I think we read it publicly before.
We did.
It was cleaning it up and making it easier to use in the various sections of town that it's been a problem. Particularly the village sections in downtown, the falls, and also up here. It relieves it, puts them in different areas, and lets some of the existing driveways continue. Basically,
It makes it workable, right?
right.
Thank you, sir. Any questions?
Good.
Back to Twyla.
All right. Counselor Colby?
Yes.
Counselor Ganong? Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Counselor Ward?
Yes.
Counselor Fellows?
Yes.
Counselor La Rochelle?
Yes.
And Counselor Albert?
Yes.
6 yeas and 0 nays. Order passed. Next item, Order 2019-234 to solicit bids for the wastewater treatment plant generator.
Hello, I'm Steve Abioli, Sewer Superintendent. This year in our capital improvement plan, we have a generator capable of operating the entire wastewater plant during power failures or emergencies. Currently, we do not have anything capable of running the entire plant. We have a portable generator that will run our disinfection system during a power outage, and that would be it. Per our DEP-issued discharge permit, we are required to have a backup power source that will at least provide primary treatment on top of the disinfection, and that's one of the reasons I intended to look back and see when the generator was originally added to capital improvement plan, because it should have been a long time ago, which I didn't do that. But we've been needing a generator for a long time, and we've had it in the plan for this year. We have the funds to purchase it, just looking for approval to be able to go out to bid.
This generator run the whole show.
Yes. Yes, it was.
And may I make a
Please.
motion for discussion? I guess?
Absolutely. Second on that.
Second.
Thank you.
Financials, we actually put enough aside in a budget to actually cover the generator you're looking for, or?
Yes, right. We're anticipating a cost right now of about $130,000 to $140,000 completely installed for generator and transfer switch. We're going to use funds that were basically carried over from last fiscal year, which was in the neighborhood of $190,000.
So the funds are already there.
Yeah, funds are there,
allocated, so.
yes.
And is that something that you see happening fairly quickly if it's approved, or have you already spec'd it out and actually had bids or anything at this point? in time?
No, we haven't. We started, the specs are in process right now. Everything should be finalized by the beginning, in the middle of January.
Yep.
We started this process several months ago. It's taking longer than we figured it would
Yep.
to get to where we are now. And we're anticipating having everything, basically go out to bid in January, get the bids back for spring installation.
Is this going to be, may I ask?
No, you keep
more
going. You're good.
Diesel or gas?
It'll
Natural
be
gas.
diesel.
Yeah.
Yeah, once you get over 150 kW, you can, propane or natural gas,
Just
or I'm
won't
sorry,
cover the
propane will not provide the power
I know
necessary.
natural gas, but actually, even natural gas has gone beyond the, sorry,
It's at the top of the hill near
at the
Craft.
top of the hill. Yep.
Yes.
I was just kind of curious. I mean, and diesel definitely is actually makes some power. Gas is
Have to move it again and so that it stops. Thanks.
So we might want to throw a line item budget for the audio.
yeah. May I ask another question?
Keep going.
So I guess one of the questions I had is this past weekend we had an extensive amount of rain, which is always a challenge for the wastewater, I think, and plant down there.
Yes.
Now, I guess your biggest demands are when we usually have a storm, so that's when the most chances of losing power are too. So, I mean, is this actually, do you actually see this would, in the past couple of years, I mean, how often would something like this actually benefited us. Like you said, we've needed it for a long time. I mean, in the meantime, what have we done to actually kind of not need it in a sense?
We have the portable generator. We're required to keep, primary treatment, which we haven't been able to do. But if the plant is down for short periods of time, a couple hours, that's not a big deal. When we start stretching that out, we start losing the capability to be able to hold the solids, and can eventually have a washout of the treatment plant. From May 15th to October 1st, we're required to disinfect the effluent leaving the plant. And the portable generator we have will run that disinfection system, basically the administration building, and that would be it. No other equipment is really operational in the plant.
So this actually will meet the criteria what you've really needed in the past. It isn't really a want, it's a need in a sense.
It is a need, and it's a requirement through DEP that's been in. I know it's been in our last two permits, our current permit and the previous permit. And before that, I'm not sure, but it's definitely a need.
Yep. Now, these units have self-contained fuel capacity, or is that actually going to need a separate tank, or is that actually?
It's self-contained.
It's all self-contained.
It'll be underneath the engine.
Yeah. Just curious. That's good.
Chair. So I have a question. I just want to back up to when we talked about funding. You said it's going to be paid for from carryover from previous budget, correct?
Yes, correct.
So was it 190K you said of carryover?
Yes.
My ask is, if we're carrying over 190K, why?
We actually had a project that we budgeted for last year. After speaking with all of our associates, it was determined it'd be best for us. We actually pulled that project into our rural development funding to be done as a contingency, and that's why that money did not get spent.
So just for the eye in the sky,
Yeah.
And so I'm clear and I understand what you just said. So it was allocated for a project and working with our partners at Oliver and Associates, and then as we went forward after it had got approved through the budget process, Oliver took a look at that and realized that, hey, you could take your funding from somewhere else,
Yes.
and that would be the better play, and leave that money set aside for another project.
Correct.
Am I hearing that right?
Yes, no, you're correct. And that's Oliver actually tried to. No, I spoke with them before, make sure they're aware of what our plans were for this generator, because we are doing upgrades at the plant, very close to where we intend to put the generator, what the current plan is, and they actually tried to get me to pull this generator in that also, and I will not do that every year. I do not want to lose that line item in our budget.
Sure. Let me ask again. I'm sorry, I missed it. What was the estimated cost for the generator right now?
Right, about 130 to 140,000 installed.
Okay. So there may be some potential money still left over after the fact.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Correct.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else? All in favor?
6-0. Order
Yeah.
passed.
Thanks, sir.
Next item?
Order 2019-235, the Maine Municipal Bond Bank application.
So we're simply requesting permission to fill out an application with the Maine Municipal Bond Bank. I put the schedule in here, and it's pretty aggressive. And February 12th is the deadline for the application, and it's quite an extensive application, so we've got to start working on it now for the $1.5 million for the Pine Woods Road reconstruction project through the bond bank.
Worst case, are we not going to see anything for this coming budget? Will we know what it's going to cost us? Are we going to have to make
Yeah.
a payment in the coming year?
I didn't get that schedule. I think she sent that to me back along. If we borrow in the spring, I think we might pay an interest payment in October.
Okay.
And then the principal and interest the following May. I can't remember, but
Okay. So what I'm hearing then is you'll
yeah.
at least have placeholders for the financial part for the budget.
exactly, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from?
Pretty straightforward, right? I mean,
Yep.
that's really the only option we have, right? I mean, as far
Right.
as for that type of.
If we don't apply now, then we can't do the work this year. We'll have to wait till the following summer and apply the following spring or in the fall.
Is that, I guess my question was, is the Maine Municipal, is that the only bond tool that we have to use? I mean,
Pretty
it's-
much.
Best of
It's the
them.
best out there, yeah.
Loaded
They only,
I have a loaded question I think I should know the answer to. Is the water bonds, does that flow through us? Does that flow through
that
them?
for us.
So
Does-
when will they be getting that if it's the same process?
I don't know, they have to get PUC approval first.
Okay.
to,
Can you
I
ask
just
the
spoke,
question?
I just spoke to him
Thanks, but
tonight about that, and
Would you
they're
get?
working on it, but it's working on it.
Can we get regular
So
updates?
whether
They know
I
the
don't-
deadline.
yeah.
I sent them both
That-
the
that was-
deadlines for the spring, and I don't know if they're going to be ready for it because of the PUC. I mean, they don't want to be borrowing money if PUC is not going to allow them to raise rates.
Right.
So they've got to at least do that process first.
More on that,
So-
Don?
No.
No. Okay.
I got a quick question. What's going to be our plan then for getting updates on that? It's going to come through the liaison?
We have a liaison.
Yeah, that's what I want to make sure of that.
We're
Yeah.
hitting that hard.
I'm not used to having a liaison, that's why I asked. I wanna make sure-
Unofficially, you do,
I
yes.
just want to make sure that, since
Yeah.
we haven't had that for
Yeah.
quite some time, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page, and that's how the information's going to flow back.
I was encouraged to hear tonight that they only meet once a month, so, you know.
Right.
Okay.
Well, thank you for doing that, sir.
I'll follow back up with them, though, and
No,
let them
it's
know
good.
that the,
So my point
The
being is that they were
deadlines.
aware of the February deadline to make the spring cutoff to be able to do it, or they have the same issue we
Yes.
do for budgeting down the line. They have a different snag with the rating to be able to get an increase, but
Right.
they need to consider both sooner than later. Okay. We had the motion, the second.
where is the motion? Who made it?
I don't know, it must be here.
If not, I'll remake it if there was.
I'll be the second.
Okay.
Or this mic might be the second. It keeps going.
You looking for something, sir? I don't want to cut you. Okay. All in favor?
We're past 6-0.
I just wanted to make sure. You look like you had a thought.
Well, I do occasionally.
Yeah, it's the cord of the mic.
Next item.
Order 2019-236, the Public Works equipment purchase.
Good evening, everyone. Randy Sear, Public Works Director. And I showed you guys a picture of our screen that we currently have, which is probably in need of great repair.
Rode through at one point, yeah.
Does anybody have to, it's up front.
And my request is for $7,300 to purchase a new screen.
Great, Don has it, once you pass that through as you go through.
And we usually screen our winter sand before that goes into the trucks. And
It's not supposed to look like that, just let you know.
just so we don't get chunks and it doesn't get all plugged up. So to purchase a new screen, which has mats that can be changed out for either finer product or coarser product, cost would be $7,300, and I can take it from my vehicle rental and the vehicle purchase. When we purchased the spare truck, I had money left over, so the money could come from those two areas.
And make a motion for discussion?
I need a second for that then.
A couple things, Randy. I mean, we have a picture here that shows that basically it's collapsed, so it's really not even usable at this point in time, by the sounds of things. So it's not if we want one, we gotta purchase one.
Right.
So that actually isn't just used for winter operations. You can use that throughout the year for different projects, right, if needed.
Well, what we do is when we reclaim the roads and they have extra, we actually stockpile it over by the LCS school, and we have a little staging area off to the side, and we've been screening it and using it for road gravel in places so we don't have to purchase it.
And that's what I think with this pitch is taken right here, right? Is that
Yeah.
down in that location?
Yeah, we're trying to bring it back, and it never made it.
So I had asked you earlier, but this isn't going to be a mobile one on wheels. This is something that you're going to actually load and unload with equipment.
Yeah, you just put it on with the loader, and then we'll be able to truck it around with the regular trailer that we have.
And may I have another question? Is that going to take away from any needed equipment for this upcoming year as far as for your rental? Or do you actually have enough for the projects coming up to cover what you need?
Yeah, I've got plenty for what we got coming up. I mean, we've got only a couple culverts that need to be replaced in the spring.
Yep.
So we'll only rent a piece of equipment if we can't do it with our own.
Yep.
But yeah, we'll have plenty in there.
I guess the biggest question I was asking was more so the idea of the rumble site. If we actually rent equipment to get in there with an excavator and stuff, is that you're still going to have enough funds, or can we pull that money from
take it from that
the TIF,
downtown
down
TIF.
TIF? Okay. I just want to make sure I don't be short anyways as far as renting equipment. That's all. And
And
this
the
piece of
screen we
equipment.
can actually use down to Arumbo too.
Yeah, I was gonna say that actually could help. Actually save quite a bit of money down there
Yep.
too if we can screen that out. So.
Exactly. We've also used it behind the school. We've talked to Alan, and he's got plenty of product up there. So we brought that screen, from different place to place. The other one's a little smaller, but it's more portable, and it works. It'll work probably better than the one we had, because the other one would get jammed up with rocks. We'd have to go in there and knock them all out. So
And this is something that's readily available, something you can actually order and
yeah,
Yep.
he's got it. He just finished one. It's in stock. I've got my name on it. I actually talked to him today. He asked me what was going on. I said I got to go to council before I spend that kind of money. So basically, it's just a phone call, and we'll go pick it up.
I guess in the next one's just a logistical question. I mean, is this something that this is actually under the amount that we have to bid out for? This is something that we can actually just
I
make
think
a
these are
direct
the
person?
only two places. So we got our quotes.
Yeah, just trying to blank. All right, thank you.
Good? All in favor?
We're past 6-0.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, while you're there, Randy, Chair, may I?
Please.
The piece of equipment that you actually bought to kind of hold us over, the used piece of equipment, did it actually did it meet the need?
It's actually working better than some of the new stuff we have. I've got guys that would rather have that truck than the new one they're driving. So it's working out very well.
Very good.
Yep, we swapped it all over from left hand to right hand wing. The thing works great. Definitely
Cool.
a great buy. A great
awesome.
buy.
Hey, you gotta have a win every now and then, right?
That's right.
Talk about
Thank you.
it, celebrate it.
Thank you, Randy.
Yep.
It's down a little bit.
It needs to be facing
Sorry.
It's this one.
Next item.
Other business, council committee reports.
School,
All good.
planning board.
Last planning board, last Thursday, they passed Grimmel's mobile home park application for the expansion, and then went into workshop on accessory dwelling units again, trying to do some narrowing down of possibilities. It's still a project in work.
LDC, sir.
No meeting this month due to the holidays. It looks like next month we're actually going to plan one, I would assume.
January 8th, I think.
January 8th by the sounds of things. So it sounds like we're going to have some information on the Arundel site, some planning information to actually review and go over. So if anybody has any interest, watch the website, and then hopefully we can have it posted. So if anybody has any interest, they can know where it is and when and where. Thank you.
Conservation doesn't meet till January, so recreation. County is done till fall, so library, sir.
Yeah, we had Claudia was promoted to Anita's old position, and so we're hiring for her part-time position. So if anybody's looking for a job, the library's hiring.
Thank you. Town managers.
We're going to do our final pass on the tax conversion this Friday. So if everything goes well with that and we can prove up the taxes, then we're going to be going live the middle of January.
Sorry about that.
Background music and
Like the
everything.
music.
I know, right?
Thought it was off.
I don't know what you said.
Lisa, you want to get the house lights?
So, another line item budget there. We're going to need a
Sorry.
pickleball.
Sorry. You did a fine job.
We needed that, Mark. Thank you.
That's all I have.
Department reports. Any questions on any content there? I would like to compliment our economic development director of reading his first report. I like the fact that he's already got the number of visits, that he's established goals for the coming year, and I know he's doing it from his perspective to be able to feel like he's getting his feet under him, but the content associated with that is the kind of stuff that we're looking for. So very much tell him thank you.
I just wanted to comment also on economic development. The road trip that's mentioned in the plan. Angie Diamore from PCL, Scott Hall, and me, and Brett, and who else? Maggie Oliver went up there in one vehicle. It was prone to discussion for an hour and a half one way and then back again. But it was an all-day session, and you can read pretty much what's in the committee report here. But it was run by the main downtown center in Skowhegan, in the interest of developing entrepreneurship and economic development suited to our town. and we are an affiliate of the organization, so the main thing that gets us is the right to apply for some grants by having attended up there that whole day session. So the grants possibilities are in the spring.
Thank you for attending.
Anything else on the department heads? Water department?
I thought Bill was going to be here tonight, so I know, maybe something happened, maybe they had a water break or something, so we'll have to
Can we
postpone that to
post-
another.
Push him for
Postpone it.
one meeting?
Yep.
If it's something that he wants to push us to electronically, you can give him
I
that
will.
option.
Yep.
I just know it's not usually his style. He
Yep.
usually is somebody that does talk.
Yep.
He said he wanted to talk about PCAs, so I don't know.
He said
Go with it.
EMA then.
I submitted everything ahead of time just in case, but I just wanted to give a quick update. Sorry. And I included some pictures, and I have a couple that I'll pass around after I talk about them, so that people in the audience can see them if they want to. So it was an exciting year this year in Lisbon if you're into emergency management, or if you live in Lisbon, because in 2019 we saw the culmination of what we had termed the generator project here in Lisbon. So we started the project over 3 years ago with the first of 3 Homeland Security grant requests. Although the amount varied over the 3 years, we, Lisbon, were awarded the consecutive grants that allowed us to move forward with our project. So during that process, I had assistance not only from the town manager, our public works department. I had help from the school department in terms of, Rick Green gave me assistance. I had assistance from Alan Willett over at the high school. I also had help from local businesses, including electrical companies here in Lisbon, although the project didn't go in their direction. At Enterprise Electric, they did give me extremely good advice anytime I asked for it. So I felt like they really looked out for Lisbon in that sense. So each year required a separate request. I had a lot of assistance from the county emergency management in that. Joanne Potvin helped me the first 2 years on those grants, and then the final year, Angela Molino, who's the current director after Joanne retired, gave me a hand not only with the third and final grant, but also with the EHP that followed, the environmental and historical preservation paperwork. So I worked closely with the county EMA director as well as the town manager, who was invaluable. We were able to reach our goal of installing a generator at Lisbon High School so that the gym can be designated an emergency shelter in case of emergency or disaster. I just want to qualify that with the fact that Red Cross opens emergency shelters, and we hear that on the news and so forth. This won't be a Red Cross shelter, but any town who has the capability to have an emergency shelter can designate it an emergency shelter for their town. So that's the direction that I went in for that. At some point in the future, we might have built up the resources so that the Red Cross would do that. And I did also receive some good advice from them on places to start and things that I would want to make sure I did. I also incidentally spoke multiple times with the folks at the Maine Association of Local Emergency Managers. Several of the other local emergency managers in Maine had good advice for me on opening shelters, where to put them, what to do, how to go about doing it, and additional advice for once we get a generator in place. But everybody agreed that the generator was the first step, so that's why we did that. Here in Lisbon, we were assisted along the way by, I just want to make sure I don't forget anyone, by the school department, from Superintendent Rick Green to Facilities Manager Alan Willett. Local business people offered invaluable advice, including specifically the folks at Enterprise Electric, and we're grateful for their assistance and advice, again, with the best interests of the town in mind. After our third and final request was granted, we launched into the environmental and historical preservation paperwork. It was a detailed report to show that there would be no impact to the environment or any historical locations or items. That paperwork, I'm sorry, that project needed to not have impact in terms of the construction or the installation. So once again, that's where the assistance to the county EMA office was invaluable. Once the EHP was approved, we moved forward with construction. Our Public Works Department did some of the work. That was a great way to save money. Electrical Systems of Maine did the project for us, got everything moving. And once again, Alan Willett, a very enthusiastic gentleman, was invaluable. He made sure the right people were connected, and he was really a pleasure to work with. We were able to save money by having the Public Works Department help with the work. And when I popped in periodically throughout the construction itself, I have a few pictures here for you, but I took a ton of pictures, and I'll see if I can't put them together to just make sure you all get more photos. The Public Works Department helped with making sure that everything got where it needed to be at the right time, and got it was, Randy, it was that pad that the generator had to go on that was the biggest part for us. It was a huge savings for us to be able to do that. The generator will be able to run the electrical in the new school gym in case of emergency, including the heat. And this is the first and most important step in creating that emergency shelter that we want for Lisbon. As the third largest municipality in our county, it's important to keep up with the needs of our community, especially in case of emergency. So moving forward, I'd like to see the formation of a committee of committed townspeople and community leaders to strengthen our shelter capabilities and increase our resilience in time of need. The town of Lisbon is unique in its opportunity to be resilient in case of a disaster. And so resilience in emergency management is one of my favorite sort of sub categories. Resilience has been shown to be one of the most important factors in regrowth and strength for any town and city across the globe that is hit with a disaster or an emergency, high-level emergency. So our town's ability to pull together, whether it be the Moxie Festival, a school event, the local business community, or the many volunteers across the community, faith-based, civic-based, and family-based, among many, helps to contribute to the overall strength and resilience we can expect to see during an emergency. So it's a privilege to be able to work in that atmosphere. Emergency responders, Public Works, the town manager, the town office staff are all integral parts of emergency management in Lisbon. And so I'm going to look forward to continuing to strengthen our emergency plans and building on our new basic shelter over the next few years. The pictures that I showed you, the first one is the very beginning of the construction. This one shows how they tore up the I guess it was a sort of a courtyard area in the right behind the school gym. We ended up placing the generator in a slightly different position, and I'll explain that in a second. I'll just share photos with you guys. We moved it, I say we, I wasn't involved in that part, but we moved it because we found out during that final planning process and construction that, and right before we made the final purchase, that having it run on natural gas was a better choice for our town and for this installation than running on diesel. So we also knew, and so I'm sort of visualizing that courtyard. It's literally, you walk in and then there's this big courtyard with the building almost all the way around you. And the natural gas lines run right there in that space. So it was the perfect opportunity to take advantage of that. So and it's right near the electrical room that's inside the high school. So the combination of factors made it really great. There's also a big like garage door opening where you can walk into that part of the facilities area inside the high school. And so it made it easier for workers to get in and around and get that work done. Then I took a picture of the generator, which is, it may very well be taller than me. It's huge. So I called it my little house. I did call it my little house. It's huge. Like I said, I popped in on and off throughout the construction, and I happened to be there the day that the generator was being tested to make sure that everything worked, and that was pretty cool. It's on a maintenance schedule. We made sure everything was all set for that, and I'm confident that it's going to be there to serve us if and when we need it. It is one of those things that you hope you never need. And so for myself, I hope we never have to turn it on other than to test it. But it's there when we need it, and it's up to the job. The final picture is the inside of the electrical room. This is that mythical switch we were talking about that we needed that turns it all on. So everything's in place, everything is working, everything is being tested on a regular basis and maintained. So I'm ready to move into the next phase of what I will probably reterm a shelter project, and see if we can talk to folks about putting together a committee that will be comprised of people who are interested in making sure that our emergency shelter moves forward in terms of supplies, maintenance, training, everything needed for an emergency shelter. So I thank you for letting me present this information for you, and if you have any questions.
Start right down there. Go.
So, a couple of quick questions. Maintenance schedule, who's responsible for that?
That, Diane, do you remember who's first? But I know the maintenance schedule is a combination of the folks at ESM, Electrical Systems of Maine, and in coordination with the facilities manager. And
Alan?
yeah,
Okay.
and they have it on a regular schedule. I didn't bring that part of my notes with me.
If you can certainly get back to me
Yeah.
or us.
Yeah, sure.
Email as well. My next question there is that Alan, there's a switch, the mythical switch.
Yeah.
Alan's qualified and understands every piece of the process to fire that up, or do we have to wait around for somebody to show up?
For testing, the testing is almost entirely automated. Not much of it is done by actual humans.
Who sees it?
Electrical
ESM
Systems
or-
Maine.
Okay.
Right.
So-
And they send the reports to us. Do I have that backwards, Diane? But I think, and I'm doing this from memory right now, but I remember talking with the. I remember talking with the guys from ESM, and they were saying that you can rely on the system and their backup systems. It does, and they send the reports to us, meaning the town of Lisbon. And I don't remember if they go.
I haven't seen any. I don't know if they're going to Dennis, and they might be going to Allen, but I'll find
I'm
out.
a very big trust but verify kind of guy. I trust
Yeah,
these
yeah.
folks know what they're
I
doing.
actually have it written down in my last.
I would really like for
Yep.
us to know exactly what the expectation is.
Yes.
What they're doing, what we're responsible for. Goes back to your committee that you pointed out.
Yeah.
I heard you say you want to talk about maintenance. I want to understand not only maintenance schedule that ESM is going to be holding, but also who are the players here in-house that are responsible for flipping the switch
Right.
when things do go sideways.
Right.
And have the understanding of what to expect if something's not working as intended.
Yep, I have most of those answers for you. I'll get them to you by email. I can't remember the actual chain of reporting, but I'll send that info to you. And if I'm hazy on anything, I'll make sure I check with the folks at ESM, make sure I have it 100% for you.
Dennis has that information.
Yeah.
I gave it to him, so I'll
Perfect.
get it
Yeah.
from him and I send it to you.
Is there any limitations on the number of folks that can be housed in the show in our facility?
Well, the fire department's
The same thing that we would if we had a basketball game.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, you can put a lot of people. I mean, when we're talking about an emergency or a disaster, we just have to use common sense at the same time. And but in general, we just use that fire department capacity as a guide. So that's what we would use as a guide.
Thank you for all your work on this.
You're welcome.
Just as a question quickly, do you know how big the generator is?
I have it written down. I can't say that I remember by any means.
Right, I'm just,
You'd
just
think
for
I
the-
would.
just for the record, the entire gym and that's it, that's powered, right? And the hallway.
Right.
Heats and lights.
Yeah,
right?
the entire gym. Yeah, and I
And
think
the
in the
restrooms.
hallway outside it that you use to enter the gym. So that whole gym space right there.
130 kW.
Yes, that sounds right.
Hot water,
130.
water heaters too, for the hot water for the shower.
Yeah,
The,
That was coincidental.
so we can have a basketball game.
Sometimes in the blast it all works out.
Right.
I love your priorities.
and that was a couple of my same questions was in a sense where, now, don't we still have an emergency task group that meet like monthly or quarterly for the school, fire department, police department? Is that
Part of the safety committee meeting?
safety committee?
More of a safety committee, it's not necessarily an emergency response committee.
Okay, I was just curious because I do agree, and that was my biggest concern is the idea of who actually this follows. Because I know the machinery exercises itself probably monthly, but who actually is the call person for it? Don't I assume it's going to exercise quite a bit anyways because every time we lose power, I assume regardless it's not just for an emergency. If we lose power, the gymnasium it probably kicks on automatically. So it probably lately we've had an opportunity to exercise it probably more so than not. And if it goes on trend as last year, probably we'll be able to know if it's working or not. But I do think we need to actually have that on paper somewhere. It's exactly who is the people that are responsible for the maintenance and upkeep, and if for some reason exercise doesn't go correctly, who actually does it fall on to actually take care of it.
Okay, so you know what I'll plan to do? I'll plan to go ahead and write up a maintenance memo so that you guys have all the information on that, and it's clear for all of us. I honestly, I know I've been doing this same project for 3 years, but it somehow has just sort of melded into a final, oh good, it's done sort of thing right now. But I'll go ahead and do that, and
Could we also, I mean, it'd be a request, and that would be something, I'm not sure how we could fill this, but on our website, could we actually have an area button to click for our warming center and for our emergency centers? Because, I mean, I'm not sure how people would actually know that this is actually open or a feasible option, or when it would be a feasible option, and not saying that if we lose power, we may not have to go to a website, but it may be an opportunity for someone to be able to click on a button and actually say this is what this is for, and who does make the call when this is actually open for, because it's not traditionally what we'd call a warming center, but what level does actually represent the idea that this would be open for public to come into? I guess it'd be nice to have that criteria so people could actually figure that out and know when it's available, when it's not, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Something that came to my mind as well is that Mr. Willett is already pretty well leveraged for a ton of resource, a ton of things that he's responsible
Right.
for at the school already. I think it's important that we have some sort of redundancy that doesn't just
I-
fall on his shoulders as well.
you're right, and I think we do have that. I'm so sorry that for some reason that wasn't my focus when I was getting ready for this, but I'll make sure you get that because I know I was pleasantly surprised by ESM's plan for maintenance and testing, and that I was impressed with how complete and good it was. So I'll make sure you guys get that
Thank you. And
information.
Councilor Larochelle
Yeah.
point about understanding what the thresholds are, is that going to be a subjective threshold, or do we want to put in some guidelines? I mean, we still can always be subjective. We feel there's a need for opening that up. I'm just going to use an example, Ice Storm in 98. That would have been a good reason to use this type of shelter.
Right.
But, I mean, there's going to be all kinds of stuff in between there, between that level of severity and then maybe not as severe, but
Right.
that's, we don't have to set just one black and white threshold and that's it. We could certainly make it subjective, but we also want to leverage what the cost is, what's associated with that, and, what are we trying to, what purpose are we trying to achieve with that center? Is it just like the warming center when we have a pretty particularly bad ice storm, a snowstorm, or something else?
We use those warming centers as a guide to see what's going on in the town. So if nobody goes to a warming center, we're probably not going to need a shelter. So that's one of those, technically it's subjective, but it's experientially subjective. So what we usually do, if there's a storm coming, if I hear from the fire chief or police chief or public works that there's an expected issue in Lisbon, like a flood or something like that, then I make sure that I contact the county EMA office and get a broader view from there of what's going on in the area. But then it also lets them know that we expect a bigger issue than we might normally. That's for a weather issue, be it snow, rain, whatever. Other issues might be any number of different things. Route 196 goes right through Lisbon. It's a good place for a tanker truck to fall over and put noxious gases and create an issue, for instance. So that's a fast scenario to think about, where you might have an issue where people need to be evacuated from their homes in a certain area and they need a place right now to go to. So that's where I feel like I have a good relationship with the emergency responders in Lisbon, as well as with Public Works in the town office. And I think that, in that situation, that's where emergency responders communicate with me, and vice versa. We all communicate with each other. Diane, Public Works Department, Fire Department, I've been in touch with many of them at different times during smaller emergencies. So we have that communication already in place, habitually already. So we hope that's going to give us an edge, not just, oh, there's a plane crashing in the middle of town. Okay.
I would assume that there has to be a coordination with the school department as well, seeing as how you
Right,
can't
especially
just open
schools
up-
in session.
Right.
Yeah, and I was able to look at other examples of often emergency shelters are in schools, so it's not an unusual issue. And what they usually end up doing is usually in a gym. They usually end up closing the gym and making sure that it's not possible for people in the shelter to access the school and vice versa. So that's actually, because of the way the gym is built, would be easier for us than it is in some other places. So
One more question. The maintenance program we actually have with the vendor that actually installed the generator. Now, I mean, I'm sure that actually had a certain criteria when you purchased it, but is that a financial agreement that actually is a yearly cost to actually have them keep?
yes, it is.
And then comes
It's
out
out of our maintenance budget.
comes out of the town's maintenance budget? All right, just kind of curious.
It's a maintenance. Yep.
Yep. I wasn't sure if that was where that actually fell. So.
Yeah. And if anyone gets a chance to, it's not really all that exciting, but Alan would be happy to give you a tour. I was thinking, oh, maybe we could have everybody meet and go look at it. Well, that's pretty boring. We'll bring pictures. So,
Anybody else? Thank you.
all right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for all your work, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Finance Director, update. Did I get that right? Yep.
Hello, everyone. Kayla Tierney, Finance Director. So first, I'd like to give an update on the update of the audit. So the auditors were here December 9th to the 11th for their second come around for field work. And we were able to complete a lot more items, got a lot more questions answered. And there still remains to be a few items as far as audit fieldwork related questions that they have for us, but at this point we're doing it electronically and they're completing it on their end in office. And that has to take place before the financial statement process can begin. So we're working diligently together to move to that next phase. And speaking with the auditors, we all thought that filing an extension on the Town of Lisbon's audit in connection with the school would be in our better interest, just given the due date. The school has a 12/31 due date, and because of that, the auditors had told me that Rick Green, superintendent, would be the one filing the extension on behalf of the school, which would be a combined extension encompassing the town side and the school side. I had sent him an email last week, and I can officially say as of today, the business manager from the school and the superintendent had sent me over email documentation of that filed extension with the state, and it has been brought to the state, and the state is aware, and they have accepted our filing extension, which will be extended to February 28th, 2020. So in that regards, I feel that it would be a good buffer for us. I'm not saying that we'll file February 28th, but it will allow ample time for the auditors to complete their necessary work on both ends, the school and the town. So that is my update on the audits. And then as far as the expenses and revenue, what I had tried to do is to do a little bit of a comparison from the expense side, the revenue side, looking at FY19 and FY20. When I had prepared the report, I prepared it for the first council of December, so all these numbers are as of the end of period 5, which is November. And as you can see, when looking at the percentages used through period 5 on a comparative basis between FY19 and FY20, we are right on target and comparable to the previous fiscal year, with some exceptions. Some of those exceptions are that the general government side is actually showing less at the end of period 5 in FY20 than it did at the same point in FY19. So I feel good about that side. In addition, the economic development is also showing 100% expended, as certain line items in this fund are related to the grant side that is housed within the economic development line items. The other side of it is the debt service side. A lot of our MMBB, Maine Municipal Bond Bank, had come in the fall, of which we have paid. So for those projections, we are showing higher expended, but that's in line with my expectations since those due dates we have met and those payments have been made accordingly. And overall, I find that each fund is right around where we expect to be around the 5-month marker. When looking at the detailed year-to-date budget report, each department is also within the percentage that we would expect. As we are in December, that would put us at a 6-month period marker, so the expectation there is to see a 50% on each of those, which is right along where we are. And I also tried to kind of break down the expenses year-to-date expended in a nice little pie chart. So you'll see that the bulk of it within expectations comes out of the general government side. And then second to that is public works and public safety. All things considered, all of our year-to-date expenses expended are looking to be right on target as to what we have left available for the remainder of this fiscal year. For the revenue side, an update of that, I had noted that there were 2 journals to be completed, and since the submission of this report, those have been completed. So on our side of it, we are representative of July to November from our revenue sharing standpoint. Otherwise, all our revenues are right on target as well. Looking at taxes, motor vehicles, and revenue sharing.
Things look good then.
Yes, they do.
Thank you for taking care of the part with the outside audit. I remember first 2 years sitting here, it was a really awkward conversation between us and the school department with actually not having those extensions properly filed and getting late reviews associated with filing for the funding for the school. So, needed to happen. As long as the school department's aware at this point, there's no blood, no foul. in that regard, thank you for taking care of that.
Yes, you're welcome.
Any other questions of Kayla, guys?
I don't.
I love this. Thank you.
Thank
Good,
you.
thank you.
I'm that geek. Now, let's go fire, and then we'll circle back to water.
Nate Leclerc, Fire Chief. Update on the inspection program. As of right now, me personally, I'm in the process of getting my NFPA certification as a fire inspector. I'm in the third part of that, which I hope to have wrapped up by May. That's my deadline to get it taken care of. So moving forward with this, I'll have some credentials behind me to hold some weight. As far as everything else concerned, with a new report software that I put in place back in July, that program allows us to do logging of inspections so we can keep track of those inspections electronically. The big part that we're going to have to talk about is the enforcement side of this. Going in to do inspections of multifamily homes, which is my big goal, is right now, looking through the ordinance that I can find, the only things I have teeth on under ordinance is inspections of bottle clubs, adult entertainment, pawn shops, their marijuana retail sales, and I found, which we haven't been doing, is any new construction in the town of Lisbon involves inspections outside of 1 and 2 family homes. I have been in contact with Dennis on this one, and we're going to try to remedy that problem. But as of that, there's no other teeth I have that I can find in the ordinances that give me any clout in doing inspections on multifamily homes. So voluntarily speaking, I can go in and do those, but I have no clout to hold anybody accountable. We don't have anything there to enforce those rules as far as, I mean, we can go and do it, but if we don't have a fine process, they can tell me to shove off, and there's nothing we can do about it. Without passing that all information off to code enforcement. And I had this conversation with Dennis. Right now, I can go out and do the inspections, pass off the violations to Dennis, but he doesn't have the time or the resources to follow up with dealing with both Lisbon and Sabattis. So that's where we're at right now. It'll probably be an ordinance review, or if not build, to get that part built into the program.
Is there anything from our perspective that we could do to actually assist you with that other than manpower?
I think if part of the my meeting I had with the state fire marshal's office, and he recommended to me, because when you're trying to do all these buildings, you don't try to do all these buildings in 1 year. You just spread out a realistic term.
That was never the
Like,
intent.
so like, okay, our goal is to do every multi-family home in a 5-year period.
Right.
He goes, bite off a little bit every week that you can do. Just plan in the fact that you're going to run into problems. Like you plan, for me, I do my inspections on Friday, so we get a fire on Friday. That was my inspection schedule. And throw those 3 buildings off the rest of the week. So it's a matter of just planning out how I'm going to do that, which one's going to be the best way of doing it. Manpower is always going to be helpful, but right now, if we're doing a small percentage a week, 3 to 5 a week, that should be manageable for me to do.
Okay.
But other than that, it's a matter of just, I think, getting a program, in fact, that has some clout to it, so we don't have to worry about, if we're going to do this, I think we should do it and do it right, so we can hold people, I don't want to say hold people, I don't want to say that right. If we're going to do this, to have some fallback on to keep people.
Where the problems are.
To enforce, yeah.
Chair?
Chair?
No?
Yeah.
Good.
Arm wrestle for it.
Are there ordinances that you want to see written that would help the case in inspections or enforcement?
I think what I just need is either an ordinance that's existing ordinance updated, or one written that gives me the authority to go in and do the inspections and do a fine schedule of people who do not want to comply with the codes that are there.
I'm wondering if MMA has any model ordinances or things like that
Flush
could
it
be
through
used.
planning board, right?
Maybe, but AvCog or MMA
Somebody to be able to.
should have something. Even the state fire marshal's office may have
Chair,
something.
may I?
Yes, please.
I guess one of the questions I'm a little confused, so maybe actually it can enlighten me. Maybe it's before I got on council, but I don't think so. But the idea of you actually going and inspecting every building and actually become the enforcer, I don't think was the intention of this by any manner. I think the idea was more for you to go in and actually giving support and advice and actually to actually help support businesses and families and not, so to speak, be another level of enforcement in the town as far as for doing fining and legality-wise. I mean, I do realize, I mean, to me, we have a role in town already with the codes enforcement that falls upon. So I'm not sure how that actually lays out. But again, maybe it just comes across differently than what we originally spoke about. I just don't know if it just seems though that maybe once you actually cross that bridge, that actually may take a lot more of a time and actually more of a. I just don't know if we want our police chief being the enforcer and actually that. Not saying that that's not the role of it, but more. I just think we got to be careful what our goal is. I mean, if is our goal the point of having someone go in every building, then starting to write fines and reports individually by yourself, and having you have to take your time to enforce those and go to court, or do we actually? I guess the role of what that would be. I mean, because that's why we do have a code enforcement person in town, and not really sure if I'm really up in the idea that he doesn't have enough time to actually keep up with the code enforcement part of it. That would be a totally different discussion because that's something we haven't heard from. Because usually, especially on new structures and stuff like that, to me it's a building code they're looking for more so than not.
The new structures are easy.
Yeah.
Because in order to get your certificate of occupancy, you need to be inspected. They're already going through. That's just anything.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I don't know if we just need more redundance in the sense the idea of actually Dennis doing an occupancy than actually having the fire department need to go in and actually to do it as a new structure. I mean, what I thought initially came from what Alan was asking is for you to do complimentary visits to businesses and actually go through and actually as a benefit.
Plus, you're also. Are you seeing obvious things when you're going to a specific call that can actually be tracked and logged to be able to have something based on? Is that different than the inspection?
Yeah, the inspection will actually. Inspections get into a lot more.
I agree.
The NFPA
yes.
101's it's this thick, the Life Safety Code. And if I'm going to do the inspections, I need to jump into those
have
codes.
The whole right.
I guess what I'm getting at is when this was first mentioned, you mentioned the fatal fires in Portland, and we didn't want to be surprised and having this stuff happen. So that's
how to get ahead of it.
That's the mentality that I took. So if we're going to do this, I need to enforce those codes. The codes are there, and I have a landlord who doesn't want to comply. What am I going to do? I can think of one property at the top of my head, which has been an issue in town for years.
Mr. Chair, if I might. So going back to echoing what you were talking about, which you said it, and I was like, that's exactly where I was going. The code enforcement officer is there to do just that. So when you're there to make sure that whoever's building is meeting code.
Right.
And so if they're not, then that would be the handoff to the code enforcement officer to then go ahead and put the teeth behind that and say, this needs to happen, or A, B, and C, these are the levers that are going to happen and to prevent you from moving forward, or if you're already there, to stop you from occupying, whatever the case may be. I think the key here is that I heard that you had a conversation with the code enforcement officer and that the outcome of that was that if that was the case, he wouldn't have the time to be able to do this currently because he's splitting time here and elsewhere. And that would beg for me to ask the question of, is there enough work out of this to warrant 2 more days of him being here? I mean, I'm hearing that we're ramping up that much, but he would need that much more. I mean, how much more time are we talking?
Yeah, I can't speak for Dennis's schedule.
No, I'm talking about when you're out there, what are you generating for work that would be too much for him to put on his plate? I guess that's where I'm going with that.
The new construction is going to be easy.
Yeah.
It's going into existing buildings that are 100 years old, that are broken up into multiple apartments, that we're finding some of them as we're going on fire calls, medical calls, that aren't even legal apartments. Those are the ones that are tricky ones we have to deal with.
So let me use your example you mentioned earlier. If you're doing one building inspection a week on a Friday, is that the schedule you plan to follow? I'm just trying to understand.
I was looking at
this would be substantial. I mean, we're talking 85 to 90% of all of our stock in town that actually meets the criteria what you're saying, but it's not just a one-year thing. I mean, once you promote a plan like this, you're actually talking, with the yearly inspections, and we're not just talking residentials, we're talking, clubs and businesses, and it's actually a totally different level of what we've ever done in our community. I mean, we've done inspections in the past, but they've been complimentary, where let me come in and take a look. Is there anything I can help you with? And then if there was something really drastically, then he'd pass off the information saying, codes really need to look at this place because there's a concern. He's actually talking about the idea of him going and being the enforcer. Which,
oh no, I'm clear on what he's talking about.
Agreed.
Once we actually find a circumstance where we have to get in and start doing the finding and the teeth of it, I mean, it kind of goes back to the idea of I can see lawyer stuff going from a little bit to substantial, because it's not hard. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, even just running a business, I mean, I know to meet every criteria of every law to get away from any gray area, there's probably less than 2% of the businesses and businesses in town that meet every criteria. I mean, so the hardest thing is finding the idea of, what meets the level of actually scrutiny and what meets the level of actually finding and going. But if you draw the line saying that you're going to enforce the 100% code, there is no gray area at that point. If you walk into a home or business and it doesn't meet all the criteria, at that point there has to be legal process. I mean, so it's just one of those things where we gotta be very careful of once you cross that threshold. Do we want his position to be more of a complimentary, going in and actually just trying to do the best we can to help promote and fix within, or going in to being the enforcer as he was initially saying, having the teeth behind it to actually enforce, because you can't say well, that will slide this time, and this isn't. It's either black and white when it comes to that type of situation.
I agree 100%. I think the thing here that I'm talking about is that I don't think the intent of that position was to ever be, your position, was to ever be one that had any sort of enforcement role. I never understood it that way, and I understand what you took from the chair's perspective on the Portland fires and trying to get ahead of that. But I think that we're kind of putting things out of a little off kilter. I don't think that's where we need to be. I really don't. I think that there's plenty of other things that you could occupy your time with, and I'm sure you would agree.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that being proactive on this and getting ahead of this will help solve that problem, and so we don't have to go on some of these fire calls. I get that, but I think we might be running when we should be walking. Right?
Mr. Chair, I think one of the things we should remember, particularly in multifamily, there's a number of people in town that rely on the safety of the place they live, which is a multifamily. And the people that live there have no choice. They have no idea what's safe and what's not, except what they know personally. That's not like a single-family home where you're responsible yourself. And I personally think that however it's enforced, somehow it needs to be enforced. Whether it's an annual inspection or every other year or it's every 3 years, the landlord who owns the building needs to expect that there will be an inspection and that the inspection has teeth that means something somewhere. So however we do that,
and whatever he's doing, I want to support, because I've seen him, and I
Okay.
know why he's there, and I know it's not right. So the fact is, what he's finding needs our support right here.
Yeah, I'm not talking about going in and saying, oh, your railing is quarter-inch too high or too low. You talk to the inspectors from the state, they go in and they look for those every nick and cranny stuff. My main concern as a fire chief is life safety. I mean, if someone's stairs are a little off, whatever, but as long as the people can get up and down the stairs safely, they have fire extinguishers, they have the smoke detectors that are supposed to be there or in their homes and operating. And we can all think of different buildings, different landlords through various towns who would rather not spend the money to maintain their profit margin. And if we don't have something to back up that inspection, we're going to run into that. Yeah, I'll take care of it. I'll show up again 3 years later and it hasn't been taken care of. And that's what I'm worried about.
So I'm hearing, if nothing else, we got documentation. It's what we do with it after the fact.
Right.
Is that a fair assessment, Nate?
I'm not sure if you can do that, though.
Documenting?
No, I mean, I don't think that he can actually go in and, I just think it's actually a threshold that I mean, I think it needs to be talked about a lot more of how that program works,
I don't disagree.
liability-wise, town-wise, and, I mean, if we don't actually have, I don't even know what the statements are, or how we actually go about the town actually
To get involved with that at all.
defining whether it's a multifamily, if we know that for a fact. I mean, I don't know I mean, if someone knocked on your door, I mean, I don't have any multifamily apartments, but if someone knocked on your door saying, hey, look, I'm a fire inspector coming in, why and who says, what's in town that's written that says that you actually need to do that?
What do our-
I don't know
Exactly.
I'm not sure if we even have all the mechanisms in place to actually make that be accountable. I'm not really sure.
What do our
We
neighboring
do have
communities-
some of that for, code enforcement already has definitions of, multifamily apartments.
Right,
and
the
that already defines it.
NFPA defines a multifamily building as 3 or more living units. Single families, 1 or 2, duplex, things like that, considered a single family.
But it just seems to me that if we don't know if we have the criteria to do what we need to do, we need to find out.
Flush out.
What do our
Exactly.
neighboring
Right.
communities do?
Yeah.
What does Lewiston, what does Brunswick do? What does Topsom?
Exactly.
Topsom currently does not do multifamilies from the fire department perspective. Brunswick's not currently doing it. I can tell you when I was working in Brunswick, they did approach their council to do it, and their council shot it down. They had major pushback from the landlord community.
And what you heard about that, does it sound very familiar to what we're pushing back on right now?
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure. I know their landlords were pushing it back because there was, they have had buildings in Brunswick condemned because of lack of codes. So
I think that this definitely needs a little bit more exploration.
And that's where I would live, is the fact is I don't want to shut the discussion down. If there's anything that you can circle back to us to actually have something constructive come out of at least this dialogue, we're at least doing something.
yes.
And I didn't mean to be a stickler. So
No,
when,
it was-
when Alan earlier asked for the report, the idea what businesses you visited, I was actually in an assumption that you were actually doing a courtesy visit to businesses, actually going in and
I haven't even-
introducing yourself and actually
It's-
asking if there was actually voluntary type stuff. And I have no problem with the idea of people going in and actually meeting a criteria. The hardest thing is I just know, especially from your profession, that there isn't a lot of black and whites. I mean, let's face it, I mean, if you walk into and you're going to do the whole code, it's either it is or it's not. It's not halfway. There's no gray areas. I mean, so you can't turn your back on something that's somewhat decent. It either has to be right or wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I just don't know on the legality side of it. I mean, a small amount of stuff that we do, even on the code enforcement, the idea of legalities and lawyer fees and stuff like that, I just don't know. Not that that's the idea that we don't want to spend the money to enforce, but, at what level is that going to be a concern, what level it's not, that's all. Just my point.
No, it's all good dialogue. I thank you, sir.
Just to let you know, I did speak to Skowhegan. Skowhegan's population is very similar to ours. Their fire department does about the same call volume we do, the same makeup of calls that we do. And they initiated this, just doing multifamily home inspections. And when they did that, they started off doing 50 to 100. Now they're doing 200 inspections a year, mostly complaint driven, and have not yet started doing proactive inspections. So it's
Just keeping up with the ones
just
that
trying
are,
to keep up with complaints versus trying to do the proactive inspections.
So if we have a complaint now, let's just kind of look at that. So if we have a complaint now, are we actually doing the inspection? I mean,
Yes.
we're not
That's
limited right now, but with the
Between Dennis and I, we do the complaint-driven inspections. Anytime someone calls, wants inspection, we're out there doing them.
yeah. So it's not that we don't have a program right now. It's actually the idea, the program you're looking at is actually more
A proactive approach.
proactive which would actually need some legalities as far as for rules written, as far as for fining and teeth.
Because right now, the only proactive approach we have is we go on a fire call, we go into
right,
the
I'm
department,
sorry, I was there.
see it while we're there, and we mention it to the building owner. Now, whether or not they follow through with it after that is hard to.
But that still
Stuff
can
on.
be followed through our code inspection as we
Yeah.
have right now and actually follow through with that process. But
Are your inspections of that nature right now on your monthly reports?
Yeah, well, they're combined in my total because
It's in your call history where it landed, right?
Right, because they fall under the public service category, if you look
Yeah.
at that part, because their inspections fall under the public service part. But I average about 3 or 4 of those a month, people calling up and asking for inspections, whether they're wood stoves, pellet stoves, just general fire safety inspections.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Let's circle back to water.
Good evening. My name is Bill Alexander. I'm the superintendent of the Lisbon Water Department. Following up with the fire department, we want to let the board know, council know that we completed the ISO fire flows last week, and we forwarded that data last Friday to him, and I sent it over to the fire chief and to the town manager as well. There was really no surprises in it. It was very similar to the last report that I saw in '93. I don't know if there's any others available, but that's the one that I have, the oldest copy that I have. One of the good things about it, if you will, is that it gave us some idea on the condition of the water system and where the needs are met so that we can use it as a planning document in the future when we're going to make an improvement in the area. We can look at this report, see what we need to have for fire flows to meet the ISO needed fire flows, and try to build the system to accommodate that. You know, there are a few areas that they talk about they need 3,500 gallons per minute of fire flow, and we've got probably 1,200 gallons a minute there. But I mean, that's the way the system's been. Well, I don't know how long. So, but it was a great exercise. Hopefully this year, if we find the time, my intention is to fire rate all the fire hydrants and to get the locations of them so that I can get that data out to the fire chief in the digital form. And I know that Androscoggin County wants it as well. So that's one of the things we're going to be working on moving ahead. So I'll be looking forward to hear, well, how the report comes back from now that they have our portion of the data anyway. One of the other things that I was really pleased about, we completed our omnidirectional flushing the end of November, and that was one of the things that our takeaway from this. We did 15 fire flows. I did one additional one, and the only one that we had any color at all was the one we did the flow to hydrant at the corner of Union Street and Main Street. We had like a light gray color for a few minutes, and then once we backed the flow down, it cleared right out. 3.5 years ago when I came here, we did anything like that, it'd be 3 days of flushing, just trying to get rid of the brown water throughout the entire community. So that was a real exciting thing for us at the department to be able to go out and to do that kind of work without disturbing the community. Because I'm basing on that that we didn't get any complaints. So, and I'd like to use this opportunity. If anybody has any issues with water or questions, please call us, because we can't fix it if we don't know about it.
Can I ask a question on that?
Oh, please.
So Bill, I mean, that's good news, but I guess, what would be the reason you think it's actually better now? Is it because what you're doing up in the filter system as far as for the way you're doing chemicals part of it? Or?
It's combined. It's a combined effort. When we reconstructed the filters back in July, we've been following that pretty close. We've been measuring the filter media, and we're getting, well, for example, the filters had decayed to the point, well, what I mean by decayed, the filter media was to the point where we were only getting like 9-hour filter runs. And so essentially what you're doing is you're expending extra money in electrical costs and pumping that water, and you're not essentially wasting water because we recycle it, but it's just that process where it's going through. And now we're up to 15 hours between backwashes. And our water quality for probably the first 14 hours is around a 0.0, 0.1 milligrams per liter. Essentially, there's no iron in the water leaving the plant. Just to give you some idea, the maximum contaminant level for iron is 0.3, 0.3 of a part per million. So that's a real great thing. The omnidirectional flushing, I don't know if I explained it, but I'll explain it again. It's like you target a specific area so that when you flush from your source of water throughout your system to the end of the system, and you close valves as you go to try to keep that dirty water, if you will, moving away from you so that you don't affect the other customers in the area. And what was difficult, or added some additional time here, is when the system was constructed, they didn't fully gate intersections. So what that does is you end up, you can't target the areas. And what I'm talking about specifically is like the downtown Lisbon Falls area, from High Street, between High Street and Route 196. So that's why we were getting the color when we did the directional flushing then. So whereas the old style of flushing, they would just go from hydrant to hydrant to hydrant. Well, the problem with that is you don't get the velocity that you need moving through the water line to properly scour the inside of it. And that's why they were having more and more frequent. So the hope, my goal is I'm thinking, based on my past experience, that in the past, the department flushed twice a year. We ought to be able to flush once a year, so that we're not taking that labor time, we can put it towards some other work. And I think when we implement the corrosion control program, which will coat the interior of these old cast iron lines and sequester some of the iron and sequester the calcium, there'll be, my hope is that the colored water will be a thing of the past. I mean, it'll happen when we have a fire or something, but it won't be
Breakage or
when
something.
somebody opens 2 faucets in their house and they get dirty water.
May I ask another question? Sure. Bill, I noticed like on corner of Route 9 and Wing, that fire hydrant actually had an out-of-service tag on it.
Yep.
Now, is that due to water flow, or, because that's a
Nope.
pretty new hydrant, one of the newer ones in town, but.
Yep. One of the things that I look at when I spec out material is the cost of ownership, not just the price and what you pay for it when you buy it. We had, I'm just going to, off the top of my head, probably 10 of those type of hydrants fail when we were winterizing the hydrants this year. And it's just the nature of the beast, that particular type of hydrant. And then there's another manufacturer in town does the same thing. That is, in the colder months, when you open them, you pull them quick, they'll snap right off. So
Some of the new ones are not built as good as some of the ones that have been there 100 years, is what you're saying?
absolutely.
Yeah, because I think we're still paying the bond on that particular hydrant, so I don't think they're even finished paying them off yet. So.
Yeah. Well, you know, they were, how can I put it? They were an economic hydrant when they first came out.
Cost bid.
And, well, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
If they're that new, though, what kind of do they have? I mean, I'm a new guy here. Forgive me. They don't back up their product.
No.
Okay,
Well, for a year.
good to know.
How many of those are out of service because of that? I mean, is it
Oh,
just
just
that,
one now.
just that one?
We
Yeah.
repaired all the other ones. We had to order some more parts and get those. We also have a hydrant out of service over on Main Street at the corner of, not the cemetery, right there by the corner,
Yeah.
corner of Houston here.
Yep.
That one, that's another one of those hydrants, but that one is just obsolete. We're going to end up having to replace that one. Can't get parts for them anymore.
I mean, that's just good information to know moving forward when we do other projects, what not to do, I guess. I mean, low bid, and we have a couple great examples of low bid stuff in town that we
Yeah.
keep paying for, so.
Well, you know, in my previous employer, I had actually done a study on fire hydrants, what they cost, how they were constructed, the friction loss through the hydrants, all of the things that you could look at to decide. And essentially, that particular model didn't even make the cut. The hydrant that we're putting in today was the spec model that we ended up selecting down there because of its dependability of service, its cost, and ease of operation.
The PUC must have guidelines, though, as far as for that stuff when they're actually installed on a project like that, wouldn't they be? Or?
So that's one of the things that, particularly of the ductile line that was manufactured back in the 80s, it met the spec. But some of it just would corrode away before,
Yeah.
a lot of the other stuff. And
From the study you were just mentioning, it sounded like that hydrant wouldn't even pass the basic test of functionality.
no.
So.
And I'll tell you, the spec that my former employer was using at the time, it meets all the the standards, so like at 250 psi, the size of the nozzle, all the things that you need, say the fire department has to have,
Of course it would.
whatever. But
Just not usability.
Right. Functionality. That's
well, that's what we found out because
Great to look at.
we operate the hydrants every year, essentially to operate them, fully open them, fully close them, so that we pressure test the hydrant section, the nozzle section, make sure that it's not cracked, not broken, everything. And what we found out, just not this particular one, but another one, just doing that over 5 or 6 years, we ended up having to replace the main valve in the bottom of the hydrants because you couldn't shut them off, and then they were freezing. And then this particular hydrant is made out of cast iron instead of ductile iron. So if they filled up and then they froze, you'd crack your nozzle section. So now you've got to buy a whole new hydrant because just buying a nozzle section, you might as well buy a whole new hydrant just because of the cost of it.
Is that whole system that way, or is it just the fire hydrants? I mean, that whole run.
Just that one particular brand.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying the rest of the product that we bought for that whole project, all the way up Route 9, was that all stuff that we're going to be replacing as time goes on, or is it just the hydrants that were actually the?
Well, I can't answer
question,
that
yeah.
question, only because I don't know what they put in the ground. You know, I'd like
It
to
makes you
think so.
wonder, that's all, but.
Yeah, you know, but yeah, it's, and because there's another particular model, when I asked them about it, look, this hydrant isn't, not this hydrant we're talking about, there was the other brand that was in Brunswick. It was, it's not UL approved, or whatever, and I talked to the manufacturer about that, and I asked them for their friction loss chart for the hydrant. And because there wasn't any published. Everybody else had a published friction loss chart, so I called them up. They sent me something that looked like some kid was making grade school. The spelling was wrong on it. Whatever. Then I asked them about the nozzle section. How come they're not ductile iron? Well, you can order them that way if you want them. I said, I'm spending the same money for ductile compared to acetic. No.
Interesting. I seen those sign on it. I was just kind of curious, knowing that was some of the newest stuff we had. That's all. But
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So,
Did you have questions about the bond? We were actually asking it earlier.
Oh,
Yeah, Don pretty much covered it. The February timeframe on the bond for the municipal bond bank and making PUC for your.
yeah, we're working on that now. As a matter of fact, tonight we just, a board just approved, we were going with Dirigo Engineering to do the design for us on, I think it is, I can't remember how many projects it was now, so that we'll have the design done and on the shelf so that we can try to coordinate some of these projects, ideally with the town and the public works when they do the roads. I mean, what we're looking at right now is Zaymore, Reed, Patterson, Beatley, that area. I mean, we've had a break there this year already. And then the other one is the Fillmore, Bonafide, and what that little street is. I can't remember the name of the street that goes down off the side of that, little dead-end street. But that's a street over there that earlier this year when we were, when we started, actually last year when we started directional flushing, we found out that there's some issues with being able to move water through there at a decent firefighting capacity. So that's one of the things that we're working on that now, right now.
I think what the concern a little bit was the bond deadline for application,
Yeah.
which you're aware of.
Right,
That's
absolutely.
February. Yeah, I wasn't sure you were going to submit in time for this application, but
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
We're gonna have, and because we're planning on the rate increase for July 1st.
Okay.
That still has to be determined, but they're working on it now.
So you can apply for the bond prior to having the PUC
Yeah.
approve the, okay, cool, thank
Yep.
you.
Okay.
I think that's where we're at.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. We
We weren't sure if the PUC rate increase had to be approved prior to the bond paperwork moving forward.
no, no,
Okay. Thank you for clearing that up for us.
no, absolutely not. And so, yeah, those are the areas that we've been having some significant problems with, and so we'd like to get those taken care of out of the way, particularly that Zaymore Street down in that. Every time we've had a main break there, it's just everything washes into the river. I mean, aside from being damaging the road and everything else, it's kind of want to protect the environment while we're doing it. So, like I mentioned earlier, we've received the draft copy of the design for the corrosion control program from Wright Pierce. I have to review that and get my comments back to them before they send out the final copy of it. Once the board gives the approval, then we have to meet with the Maine Drinking Water Program for their approval before we can actually construct it and implement it. I'm really looking forward to getting that done because the comments about sand that you see or people hearing that they're getting in their faucet and stuff, it isn't sand, it's calcium. And hopefully that in a year or so, this will be a thing of the past. That's what we're working towards. So, and because of the corrosion control inhibitor, we're also going to have to chlorinate all the stations, all the facilities, all 3 of the sites. Because this phosphate, essentially, it's a food for bacteria, and we don't want to have any, create any bacteriological growth in the distribution system. Keep them under control. I'm going on vacation next 2 weeks, and when I come back, I got to write the RFP for doing the master plan for the water department. so that we can move ahead. One of the first things, because of this, the fire flows and things, we're also part of that's also going to be doing the hydraulic modeling for the system, so that they can see where I try to identify other weak areas in the system. Well, what I mean by weak, that doesn't have the appropriate capacity for firefighting. When the system was, as the system's been constructed over the years, there's a lot of dead-end lines. And without having some redundancy or another way to feed these lines in, you're, you know, you got a couple miles of 6-inch pipe and, you know, like 500 gallons a minute. It's, I found out that's why the firefighters come further into town, like on Main Street, like and fill their trucks at Wing Street, because they can get more water out of that hydrant than they can out to the end, because it's so far out. Some of the things that we're going to do this coming year, the tanks, the standpipes are, and the clear well is scheduled to be, typically you clean those on a 3-year rotation. It's been 4 years. We're going to get those cleaned out. We hire a company that actually makes and enters into the tanks while they're in service, vacuums the material that's in the, it does a visual inspection, you know, videos, so that we can see what's going on inside the tank and see if there's anything that requires any immediate attention. As far as immediate attention goes, Elizabeth Falls tank, that base is corroded to the point where it requires repair this as soon as the warm weather gets here. The bolts or the rods that hold the tank down, the concrete has failed or scaled off out of there, so that we're going to have to get that back and seal the base off just to hold the tank until the department decides where we're going to go with storage in the future. We've got to take care of what we have. The altitude valve building up there has to be replaced as well. If you excuse the expression, you can throw a cat through it anywhere. And there's one other item up there. No, it's a cleaning the base and the altitude valve building. So take care of that. That's like a little doghouse kind of a thing. We'll put something back that you can actually walk into, have it insulated so that you can, well, it's safe to enter and exit. It'll be a little easier on my back as well. So, they approved the commissioners approved the budget last month for the coming year, and so you know, we're looking to start making some of these water line improvements. And I really hope the state moves ahead in 22 with the Main Street project. The other thing I forgot to mention is when we were doing our flushing, we actually found 5 valves that are inoperative. And that was one of the other things about it. When you shut streets off like that, you find out right off, you'll lose water on the street. So we found some valves that we gotta either get them working or replace them this coming year as well. So I don't know if you have any other questions for me.
Usually we don't have to ask anything. He covers it all.
Yeah, I try not to get down into
Breeze this winter that had caused
I
more
try not
breaks,
to get
that's
in,
all.
I try not to get into the weeds, but you know,
Yeah.
it's just you know, there's a lot to it, you know. And the thing of it is I really wish people would call the department if they have some complaints, so that we can address them. I mean, when I came to work here, we had easily 30 complaints a month, and this month we've had 2.
No, you're one of those people in this community that actually is probably the least likely to hide. That's one of the. You're very approachable, and you will talk water associated with the specifics.
It's been a big part of my life, and I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think there are some folks on social media who have tried to run down that road of disparaging the water department, and there are some folks who are championing, yeah, I'm saying that right, the water department and pushing back, and not only just saying call, but saying, you know, calling people out on their nonsense, and then saying reach out to and get. So I think a lot of that stuff that was kind of bubbling up has since simmered down. There'll always be somebody flaring out. You can't make everybody happy.
And I understand that, but you know, I'd really, if people have a question, I'll answer it. I will, and
we all know that.
Good, bad, or ugly, I'll tell you. And
we all know that.
All right?
Thanks, sir.
Well, thank you, Tom. I really appreciate it, and Merry Christmas to you all.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
Council achievements, that's you.
Lightning round. All right. I'm going to give it due justice, but I am going to fly through it, so hold on your hats. All right, during the 2019 calendar year, Town Council made much progress on a list of goals that we'd set for ourselves for that coming 2019 year. So they're listed below. As council, we adopted and issued the new comprehensive plan with the combined efforts of the planning board and the town planner. Love my mic. The Moxie Festival administration and organization moved from the Economic Development Office to the Parks and Recreation Department. This year's festival was a huge success with the support of the expanded Moxie committee, community support, and all the department staff. I think it's important to recognize Julie Baumer for her first year jumping into that role. She's did a great job steering the committee, and with the help, of course, of Mark, department head of the rec department, and his staff. As part of the 2019-2020 budget, the council authorized the following fund balance allocations to reduce the tax rate, town buildings, pole roof over the entrance here, the Public Works skid steer purchase, Public Works again for the wheeler truck and dump body with attachments, and solid waste, the trash trailer that goes along with that. Council amended the land use chart to include medical marijuana establishments upon a conditional use permit by the planning board. Council also enacted a medical marijuana licensing ordinance as an emergency measure until a permanent ordinance goes into effect. Council held several workshops and budget meetings, including one on subject of solid waste fees, where much of the community input on the topic was received. Town was successful at obtaining a $3,750 waste diversion grant. Excuse me, it's getting late. To help fund the startup of a composting station. The compost station has been a huge success, and participation has far exceeded our expectations. Council adopted and amended the following ordinances: licensing of medical marijuana establishments, daycare changes, solid waste transfer and recycling. The town report was dedicated in the memory of Gina Mason. The town purchased 1 Canal Street, the Warumbo Mill lot in Lisbon Falls. Council hosted an Employee Appreciation Day for all employees and their families at Beaver Park in September. 2019 projects included the following: emergency generation project completed at the high school and gym, as we heard about earlier tonight. Ordered a new pumper fire truck in a very fine Moxie orange color. Completed Lisbon Village streetscapes project. Continued work on sewer and paving projects. Underground fuel storage tank 10-year extension. Hydraulic lift purchase. Library reciprocal borrowing program. The town building repairs. Town hall exterior and Public Works salt shed roof. Mill Street dam removal. Completed site work for the Graziano's let me back that up. The Graziano's Park site is in progress, slated to be completed at the end of this spring in 2020. Town Council would like to thank the following businesses for their combined investment in our town, for their new, relocated, or expanded businesses. If we've forgotten anyone, we certainly apologize. New and relocated businesses: Grazia to Go, Lisbon Cannabis, Haggerty Realty, the Rusty Lantern, BBB Pharmaceutical Alternatives, 207 Edibles, State Farm Insurance, Brewers Barber Company, All Around Cleaning, DT Dion Welding and Fabrication, Ian McKay Detailed, Auto Detailing, Safe Travels Transportation Service. And again, if we overlooked you, it was not intentional. We'll certainly make sure that we throw it on to the next. You got somebody? Sweet Cakes Bakery. That's a very good point. Thank you, Cass, for pointing that out. All right. Council recognized under Good News and Recognition the following over this session. Lisbon High School Cheerleaders Class C Southern Regional Championship, or champions, I should say. Lisbon Drama Club Class B One-Act Play State Champs. Lisbon High School Baseball Class C State Champs. All the state champs in this town. Spirit of America Award, Angela Schamberger. Lisbon High School Football Class D State Champs, who we honored tonight. June and November referendum questions were approved as follows. Consolidated voting districts passed. Pine Woods Road reconstruction bond for $1.5 million. And then the waterline infrastructure improvements for $6 million. We would like to thank the following staff who retired this past year: James Field, driver, operator; Bill Taffley, detective sergeant; Harry Moore, sergeant; Anita, and I'm not going to pronounce her last name right, so I'm just going to say Marianis, and I hope that you forgive me. Library circulation aid. We say goodbye to friends, former chair and longtime member of the planning board, Karen Paradise, and a longtime vocal citizen here in the community, Larry Fillmore. We welcomed new public works director in Randy Sear, a new finance director in Kayla Tierney. We welcomed an economic and community development director, Brett Richardson, and we were fortunate enough to see Ryan McGee promoted to police lieutenant. So these are all of the, or I guess a snapshot of all some of the things we did. I'm sure there will be a few more things that we'll complete before the 31st that we'll be able to talk about as well. But I'd just like to take a moment and say I really enjoyed my time as chair. I think you all did some incredible work this year, and I was proud to be a part of it. I think we came in and we worked hard every session we had. And when we weren't in this building, we were certainly making phone calls and sending emails. And I'm sorry, Diane, for all of that. Thank you all. Great stuff here.
Thank you, sir. Next item.
Under appointments, Order 2019-238, the Assessment Review Board. There's a 2-year term to 2020. It's a vacancy.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Lisa Ward for the 2-year term for the Assessment Review Board.
Second that.
Look like him.
Yep.
I got a couple.
All in favor?
Order passed, 6-0. Next one is Order 2019-239, the Lisbon Development Committee, a 3-year term to 2021, a vacancy, and to appoint Brett Richardson, the ECD Director.
I make a motion to appoint Lisa Ward for the Lisbon Development Committee for a 2-year term, as well as appointing Lori Morse as an alternative to that.
LDC.
Yeah.
I need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
6-0. Order passed.
Next.
Order 2019-240, the Recreation Committee, a 3-year term to 2022, a renewal appointment.
I make a motion to appoint Kara Elizabeth McVeigh to the Recreation Committee, 3-year term.
I need a second.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
6-0. Order passed.
Next.
Order 2019-241, a Board of Appeals, a 3-year term, vacancy to 2022.
I make a motion to appoint Brittany Couillard.
You got it.
Okay. To the Board of Appeals for the 3-year term.
I need a second.
Second. Nope. Don's got it.
All in favor?
Order passed, 6-0.
Next.
Order 2019-242, Planning Board regular member, 3-year term to 2022.
We don't have one. We're not going to make an appointment tonight.
All right. And then we have Order 2019-243, a Planning Board associate member, a 3-year term to 2022.
Wait, Les, we got to back up a minute. We're going to appoint Lisa to the regular committee, regular member, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was my understanding.
That's why that was on there.
That was my understanding. No, it's okay.
So we'll go back to
Yeah.
242, Planning Board, regular member, 3-year term to 2022. You have a name?
Lisa Ward.
I need a motion.
I'd like to nominate Lisa Ward.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Order passed, 6-0.
We'll get there.
Okay, there's none for an
Totally
associate
not even
member
looking at
tonight.
All right.
Didn't get it.
And then we'll move that to a different agenda. Order 2019-244, the CDBG Downtown Revitalization and Facade Grant Advisory Committees, along with the Commercial Revolving Loan Committee and Conservation Commission, to appoint Brett Richardson, ECD Director, on those committees. Is that correct?
Make that motion.
Not on the
Not on the
conservation.
Something's not right there. Why would Brett be on the
Just the-
Conservation Committee? Yeah.
Downtown Facade and Commercial
Revolving
Revolving
Loan.
Loan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
that makes sense.
So move.
And then I have a motion to appoint Savannah Haggerty to the Conservation Commission.
All right, let's do the second for
all in
this
motion?
other one.
Hold on, we got
Do
too
it
much.
Do it.
We got too much
Let's
stuff.
do
We only have
Dawn's.
one order.
Do Dawn's. I need a
Dawn's
second, but
motion.
Dawn's motion.
I'll second.
For Brett to the CDB
Yep.
downtown and the grant advisory and the commercial revolving loan. All those in favor?
Yep.
6-0. And then yours is for Savannah
Yeah.
Haggerty,
Conservation Commission.
conservation,
Need a second.
I'll second that.
All in favor there.
6-0. Okay,
Cover them all?
got him.
That's it?
Oh, there's one more. Council committee assignments.
Yes.
I'll do it on other member here.
That was where I was going to land. The fact that if anybody has any place that they would like to land, please continue to get me that information. I'd like to be able to have that discussion where we have all of us here, so Mr. Ganong actually can participate in that as well too. I've taken the feedback that you guys have given me here, so just keep it coming. Anybody who wants to see where that's at, check in with me later, and I can tell you what's open. If there's anything you were doing last year specifically, like the library and those type of things, if you
Happy
want
to stick with it if
Perfect.
somebody
That's-
else wants it. I'm not gonna
right on.
wrestle you for it, but happy to do it.
Much appreciated. Next.
Councilor communications?
I just want to say one thing, if I could, Mr. Chair. The working rules for the town council
Yep.
are in work.
Right.
And
Sorry.
I should have it for you next meeting.
For the meeting. Perfect. The one thing that I had, seeing the huge agenda tonight, I just want to remind the fact is it'll probably be covered with Dan in the workshop at the meeting of the 7th. Any council that wants something put on agenda, let Diane know. As long as you hit that Wednesday, that's the prerogative of sitting in there. It isn't one person and that type of
Is it
stuff.
Wednesday
So
or Thursday?
Wednesday.
I would say Wednesday because
Wednesday.
we're trying to make it standardized so they have the time to vet it to get it out for the Friday.
Okay.
That's all.
Fix the rules again.
Is there a specific day referenced?
There was Wednesday and there was Thursday.
Yeah,
And I changed it to Thursday,
Wednesday's
so I'll
in the
change it back to
ordinance.
Wednesday.
Wednesday's in the ordinance, so.
Wednesday's better.
Yeah, okay.
That's what I remembered. Okay. Wait, thank you. And thank you for fleshing out those little nuances.
I just want to take a quick moment to, we did bring a new Conservation Committee member on tonight. That means somebody had to go away. And so I'd like to recognize Mr. Richard Nato, first time on the Conservation Committee. And we appreciate you taking the time to join and contribute. I do want to go ahead and wish you the best and hope that you are on the mend soon, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Where are we at? Any more communications? Next item.
Audience participation for new items?
Anybody wishing? Look at him. Such swagger.
Yes. Nathan LeClaire, Fire Chief. I just want to give you guys a quick update because I just got this information today. The new fire truck is actually ahead of schedule. It looks like we're going to be heading out to the factory at the end of January, beginning of February to do the inspection of the vehicle. So I don't know if you guys have been following it on Facebook, it's looking pretty good. The truck started production beginning of last month, and we're looking at end of production the end of February. So it's
Cool.
on its way.
Cool.
Sweet.
Thank you very much, sir.
I did see that. It looks awesome.
Yeah, I was a little concerned when I first saw the pictures, when I first getting them, because they're under the bright LED lights at the factory, and it looked pretty neon.
Yeah, yeah.
But outside, you can see that more of that moxie orangey tinge to it,
Right.
a reddish orange. So yeah.
Right.
Go ahead, Mark.
Definitely good.
Very cool. Thank you, sir.
Before we jump ahead, I just want to think of one more thing with council communication.
Sure.
I just want to thank whoever came in here and took the time to make this place holiday appropriate. It was nice tonight. It was definitely something that was appreciated. So I'll leave that.
Thank you.
That's our office.
Yay.
Kayla Tierney, Finance Director. Just wanted to also announce that we have filled the Finance Assistant position, and we are very excited about it. It is an internal move that I think will really round out the Finance Department.
Very cool.
You going to announce who it is?
Yeah,
You're not going to give us a name?
Looking at Diane going, whoo, whoo, whoo.
It is Rebecca Hayslip.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Internal, look at that. I like it.
Yeah.
Normally we churn people out. I say we don't churn them out, but they choose to go elsewhere. The fact that we see some internal movement bodes very well to one of the goals from last year, which was keep the right people in the long-term roles. Thank you.
Thank you,
Awesome
Kayla.
news.
Thank you. I'm very excited about it. Thank
Great.
you.
Cool. My favorite part of this meeting.
Anybody
right
else? You got nothing? Yeah, I'm looking at him. He came in.
Oh,
I should get
Justin?
yeah, Justin. He must always have something.
Hey, who brought the new guy?
You got anything to say, bud? No?
Okay.
Go Hounds.
Thanks for coming out. We got just one left, right?
Ready to adjourn?
Who wants it?
I'll make that motion.
Just you wanted it like 45 minutes ago.
I'll second.
6-0, stand adjourned.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you, Diane.
I'm gonna figure out. So yeah, just let me know when you're offline. I'm gonna pull this microphone out for a minute. Because I'm ready to.
You missed it.